This is a quick little how to get your toe-up socks from one needle to cable needle, which is what I was originally doing when I was knitting the full sock. So just to stay in real time as I go through these socks, I'll show you how I get these back onto magic loop so I can finish up to the cuff. So I finished up my whole heel on my second sock and I did all my decreases. So now I have a total of 64 stitches all the way around total. 32 here, 18 here, 7 and 7 on the left and right side. So what I'm going to do is reduce this down to 2 needles. Let's see, where's my little butterbeer? Okay, I won't need my beginning of the round because once you're on magic loop, you just have to pay attention to what's front and back. So I'm going to take this one gusset side and put it here. Well, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I want 32 on the front and I want to remain with 32 on the back. So I'm going to place the gusset stitches onto the back needle here. I want to make sure that it's half and half, 32 on front and 32 on back when I put it back onto the magic loop. So I'm just sliding stitches. Yep. Making sure it matches on the other side. Or the other sock, I mean. So I'm just sliding stitches. That's all. No knitting involved. Okay. So now I'm all even. 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, and the last 2. 32 on each side. And everything is still connected to my working yarn, which is the way that I want it. The back needle is where I'm starting from for the working yarn, which is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And here on the other sock, which is on the magic loop, ready to restart, again, back needle is attached to the working yarn. So I'm just going to line these two up and slide straight on over. Super easy, but if you've never done it, I figured I'd go ahead and show you how I do this. And it's just transferring stitches. Super easy, just don't let stitches fall off because you don't want to have to use a crochet hook and fix your stitches and get back up there. Get back up there meaning from a drop stitch and work your way back up to where you need to be. And just start sliding a little bit by little bit. hold that kind of tight and just slide so it hangs. That way you've got more room to work on the back needle when you've got some more room here on the front, more cable. And then do the same exact thing on the back needle. And if doing it from the front direction is kind of fiddly, you can just flip it around. No big deal. Okay. Now everything is right back to the way it was. Before I took things basically off the needles for the heel. This sock is attached to its working yarn. This one over here is attached to its ball of working yarn. Don't need any more double pointed needles for the rest of the project. And if you were using any stitch markers like me to remind you which side was a decrease for the heel, you can take those off. You won't need those any longer. And you won't need a beginning of the round marker, because every time you, as long as you have, well, you don't even need the stitch markers, you'll always know your beginning of the round is on this front corner. And this is the back, obviously, because of the heel, but that's how you know this front right edge is always your beginning of the round. But if you want to, you know, keep a stitch marker up here just to remind yourself, that's fine. Whatever's comfortable. And this little bit, if you ever find that your yarn falls under the cable, you can pull the ball right through right now, or just wait until you get to that needle, but I'll go ahead and pull it through. You just don't want your yarn going under the cable. You wouldn't be able to work it when it's going under like that. You want your working yarn from the back, but easily coming off the top of that back cable, just like on this side. And then to go ahead and restart everything, I like to push things as close together as possible. I want to give myself as much loop on that side, because I don't want, which even if it did slide all the way to the very end of this loop and then reconnect, basically, I just have to squeeze it together and pull the loop back through, making sure I'm 32 and 32. But I just like to keep everything close together so that does not happen. So I'll pull out my back needle, give it a little bit of a tug, and that's what gives you the magic loop, the loops on the left and the right. And then just get this first working yarn in your hand, and then you just start knitting around. And you'll go right around both socks. So I'll only show this one time because I think I did a reminder video on magic loop before. And this is super easy. When I first saw magic loop, I thought it was the oddest thing ever and made no sense. But once I buckled down and gave it a try, found out it's not difficult at all. But it's always personal preference. Some people like it, some people don't. At first I found it to be very fiddly because I was not accustomed to it. But once I got used to it, I use it for socks all the time. That way I don't get second sock syndrome. What I don't like about working on magic loop with socks is when I'm doing what I guess I would consider complex cable work for socks. I wouldn't want to do all that with magic loop. It's easier and faster with my hands to keep it on 9-inch circulars. So all I did, once I was done with this one, I just let that working yarn hang right on the back, and then I just picked up the new yarn, connected to this particular sock, and then just started knitting. Nothing attaches. As long as you don't crisscross your yarn, nothing attaches. Okay, and to turn, I'm going to pull this. I'm going to pull this side loop, making sure I pull on the correct front or back cable because it does tend to twist. I just want to pull the back one a little bit. Okay, you can turn it either way, doesn't matter. Go ahead and turn it towards me. And you'll see it crisscrosses, and then you can always just uncross them. No big deal. Everything is back just like it was in the beginning. Yarn's on that back needle from the top. I want to push the front one, the front needle. I'll move this sock over a little. And I like to hold things. I don't like holding it so that it's a spaced out project because I end up getting, at least for me, I feel like it stretches this side portion. So I like to keep it as close together as possible. I just basically pinch it together. Not on a death grip or anything, but I just hold it together. And also, once I pull this back needle out, I definitely want to pinch it. That way, this bar, which can be called a ladder, when you're on magic loop, some people say that this bar in here gets stretched out and exaggerated in their project. So I've seen where people say keep this cable forward as much as possible. The best way to do it is just pinch your work together. Knit that first stitch and keep it pinched. Just give it a nice little tug. Nothing terribly tight, just a nice tug. And continue keeping it nice and tight. A few little tugs on maybe the first 4 or 5 stitches, and then you can release. And then keep on knitting. And you'll see it's nice and tight over there. No ladders. No exaggerated yarn bars or ladders, whatever you want to call it, exaggerated spaces. You won't have to worry about that if you just keep it nice and tight. I'm going to pull that loop a little bit. Don't need to worry about that yarn. Make sure it stays up here on the top and out of the way. You can hang it in the back. I like to keep it in the front, but definitely don't let it come in between and loop forward in between the socks, because when you come back to it on the other side, you'll have to pull the yarn through the cables and all that hoopla. So just to save yourself some hassle, keep that working yarn so it comes off the top, back needle. Either let it hang towards you or hang it to the front, you know, off to the right. Grab your other needle and just push it into position. Get the working yarn for this sock. You can see it's coming off of this back cable over here where it's supposed to be, attached to the sock. And again, I'm going to pinch and hold so I don't get spacing. Give it a nice little tug on the first 4 or 5 stitches. Keep it pinched and give it a little tug, and then you can keep on going. And I'll keep doing this until I run out of yarn. So I can see why people always say when you go toe up, you're not playing yarn chicken, trying to figure out if you have enough yarn. Once you do your heel, or if you're not doing, let's say, a contrast heel, you know, you're using just one whole color, you have to make sure that you have enough from cuff, or even if you're doing a contrast cuff, your main color after the cuff. You know, if you're making a super long leg, you still need that main color up here. You need it to be down here in the foot. And if you're not doing a contrast heel or toe, you still need, you know, enough yarn. So you don't end up playing yarn chicken when you go toe up. As long as you have the same, you know, even weight in your 2 yarn balls, then you're not going to play yarn chicken, so to speak, and worry if, you know, you run out of yarn. And when I say the weight of the yarn, let's say you have a, well, it's not even let's say, this was one whole skein, and I have tongue-tied. This was one whole skein, and I have a winder, one of those wood, I think they're called Stanwood winders, with a ball winder also. And I can show that in another little video with some other little things that I'm thinking of too. But you basically take your skein, you wind half of the yarn onto your winder, and what you need to do is keep the yarn on the winder and take it off of your swift. That's the name of it. Complete and utter brain fog. The swift that's holding the skein of yarn spinning around in a circle. Take that yarn off and weigh it on like a little food scale. That way you know if that's, I don't know, give it a stupid number. If it's 20 grams, that means you have 20 grams on the actual ball winder, winding into a cake. And your skein will tell you how many grams of yarn it is. So if your yarn on your Swift that's flinging around in a circle with the actual yarn wrapped around it, if you take that off and it's 20 grams, and that means what's on your winder that's being caked up, that's 20 grams. You can balance it out that way. Once you're done, it would be 20 and 20 if your skein was 40. I hope that makes sense. If not, I can just do a video and show you how I wind my yarn and weigh it out. It's super easy. It's nothing complex at all. And those little food scales are super cheap on Amazon. So that's how I get my socks back onto cable needles, and I'll go ahead and just knit until I run out of my main color, and then I'll go back to my contrast color and do cuffs. What I'll do, because this is the only ball of yarn that I have for the heel, cuff, and toe, I will put this on my food scale, and I'll simply unwind it. I'll weigh it first and see what it is, and then just start unwinding until whatever's on the scale says whatever number, and I'll make it match, and then cut it in half and use it on left and right sock. Hope that makes sense. Long day. So that's what I'll end up doing, and I'll come back once I get to the cuff, and I will take well, actually, I could do the cuff on the cable needle. That's not a problem. You can always do that. Or you can just take them off and do them on 9-inch circulars if it's faster. It's total personal preference. But that's how the main point of this reminder video was how to put the sock back onto Magic Loop, minus all the rambling. Sorry. So that's about it.